Finding myself newly single, I decided to escape to a remote resort on Oshima Island with my daughter, Mia. The melancholy beauty of the island offered a tranquil refuge from the recent upheaval of our lives. Little did we know, a terror lurked beneath its surface. I chose this resort because I wanted something more secluded for my daughter. It's been a year since Mia has said a word to anyone. I thought it was a result of all the fighting between my ex and I, but months have passed since the divorce, and still not a peep. Everything at the resort seemed normal at first. The staff, always with a friendly smile, were very welcoming. They remembered our names, catered to our dietary preferences, and were always ready with suggestions for local attractions. However, even this tranquil setting couldn't ease the deafening silence between Mia and me. We spent the majority of the trip hanging out along the beach, but honestly, I was bored having no one to talk to. My phone didn't have reception. I couldn't even text my friends. So I focused on spending quality time with Mia, watching movies, playing board games, and playing near the water. I would do anything for my daughter to feel comfortable talking to me again. One rainy afternoon, we were in the resort's communal room after breakfast. I looked at the movies on the shelf and pulled out Snow White, since it was her favorite. Eagerly, I popped the tape into the old VCR. It took a while for it to work. Finally, it began to play. But instead of familiar animated characters, a collage of horrifying images assaulted our senses. An eclipse followed by a mirror reflecting a woman's tormented face. Then a well and a barren field. I tried to turn it off, but it didn't work. Mia's hand clenched mine as she shivered in fear. That's when my cell phone buzzed to life, startling me. Seeing an incoming call, I picked it up, only to hear an ominous voice on the other line, echoing the same words as Mia. 7 days. The person on the other line immediately hung up. I was confused and terrified at the same time. I had watched the movie Ring a few times to be paranoid. But I was also a little relieved that my Mia had finally said something. During the next 6 nights, our tranquility was gradually shattered. On the first night, the lights would flicker at random intervals. I dismissed it as a trivial issue, attributing it to the less than perfect electrical infrastructure common in such remote locations. On the second night, I was startled by whispers that seemed to float in from nowhere. Although the chilling tone sent shivers down my spine, I quickly brushed them off as the result of staff chatter carrying over from somewhere else in the resort. On the third night, an inexplicable cold invaded our rooms. Despite the summer heat outside, our room was frigid, as though an air conditioner was working overtime. I brushed this off too, assuming the resort staff had finally gotten the erratic air conditioning unit to work effectively. The fourth night brought a series of ominous scratching sounds from within the walls. The unsettling sounds were disturbing, yet I dismissed them as the work of small animals or insects, a common occurrence given our proximity to nature on the island. The fifth night took an unnerving turn when shadows in our room began to morph into peculiar and terrifying shapes in the dim light. I justified this as a side effect of the constant stress and my overactive imagination casting ordinary objects into grotesque silhouettes. However, on the sixth night, the faucets began to drip with a liquid that disturbingly resembled blood. This gruesome spectacle was impossible to rationalize. The strange happenings of the previous nights, which I had so swiftly dismissed, now seemed to be sinister omens, signaling that something was seriously wrong. When I went to the front desk to complain again, no one was there. I decided we would stay the night, and if staff didn't return by morning, we would leave. Mia woke up screaming about the scary lady from the well. I couldn't sleep, so I went to the front desk and got on their computer. A sense of dread gripped me. Something was horribly wrong. I started researching the history of the resort and was chilled to the bone. We had unwillingly become part of Sadako's curse, a vengeful spirit of a psychic girl betrayed and thrown into a well to die a slow, lonely death. On the last night, the air hung heavy with terror, and I couldn't find Mia. Frantic, I searched the resort only to find her outside, under the moonlight, her small figure making its way towards a well that wasn't on the resort's map. I sprinted after her, my heart pounding in my chest, calling out her name. She seemed to be in a trance, undeterred by my pleas. I tried to stop her, but she was strong, unnaturally so, pushing me away with a force that defied her petite frame. Then, out of nowhere, Sadako made her horrifying entrance out of the well, her long hair obscuring her face. Mia snapped out of her trance and stared at the ghost in terror. I held Mia close, my heart thundering in my chest as Mia's psychic power clashed with Sadako's vengeful force. A shockwave of images and emotions cascaded through my mind, including Sadako's birth, her family, then her betrayal and death. Sadako, you have to move on. Mia's voice, steady despite her fear, echoed. A sudden realization gripped me. Mia's psychic abilities weren't random. She was somehow spiritually connected to Sadako from the start. It wasn't a random haunting we were facing, but a call of recognition from a lonely spirit to a kindred soul. You didn't deserve that, believe me, Mia told her as she shared her past with her. Mia's visions were heart-wrenching, capturing scenes of her father's cruel abuse when he discovered her psychic gifts, the bitter divorce, and the suffocating silence that followed. A horrifying scream pierced the silence as Sadako trembled. Then, as if devoured by the darkness, she vanished, leaving an almost deafening silence behind. Mia, drained, collapsed into my arms. In the aftermath of the encounter, I couldn't help but marvel at Mia. She had faced her fears head-on and used her psychic abilities to empathize with a tormented spirit. Even though our lives were far from ordinary now, we had survived an ordeal that had deepened our bond immeasurably. But even as relief washed over us, a lingering feeling remained. As we settled back into our room for one more night, I couldn't shake the realization that Mia's connection with Sadako was no mere coincidence. It was a call of recognition from one kindred spirit to another, and now, with her powers awakened, Mia had become a beacon for other spirits. Mia was more attuned to the spiritual world, and her psychic gift was now part of her identity. One night, as we were settling for dinner, Mia's eyes widened, her gaze fixed on something in the distance. I followed her eyes, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Do you see her? I felt a chill run down my spine. She's been watching us all day. Our tranquil home had been transformed into an unpredictable space since our return from Oshima Island. Mia's connection to the spiritual world had opened a door that couldn't be closed, and now ghosts were making their presence known. We were on the precipice of a new journey, and I couldn't help but wonder where it would lead us.